I'm a 2-year native to Fayetteville. I grew up in Chicago, Illinois, a very, very bad neighborhood, North Chicago. My mom was a single mom, and she's also from Jamaica. And so my mom, when I was a kid, I'm the oldest of 7. And so I always told my mom that one day, you know, I'll make enough money to take her back to Jamaica on vacation. Thankfully, I was able to do that just a few years ago as a speaker. So anyway, the idea of business is something that has always been, I think, in my DNA and with my brothers as well. There's 5 boys and 2 girls. And what you find is that over time, I used to have a lot of health issues as a kid. When I was 16 years old, I was sleeping there in Stone Mountain, Georgia. And while I was sleeping, I woke up in the middle of the night and I couldn't breathe. So I was obviously a little bit surprised by that, jumped out of the bed, realized my body began to regurgitate whatever was in my stomach. But every time I would try to take a breath after that regurgitation, my throat would close because for whatever reason, my body was just convulsing and I couldn't breathe. And so I was throwing myself into the windows to try to wake my dad up so that they could come find me. And finally, my dad woke up. He came out there and he was trying to figure out what was wrong, and my body just kept doing this process for about 10 minutes. After that, he said, "Okay, how are you feeling?" And to my mother's shock and chagrin, my parents were divorced by this time, and to my shock and chagrin, my dad did not take me to the hospital. He just said, "Well, go to sleep." He slept in the room and said, "Hey, you know,
walk it off."
You know, exactly, right? It's the age-old Caribbean saying, "You'll live." So. But from that experience, we went to the doctor the following day only to discover that the doctor had no answer. Why did this happen? Maybe the pollen count in Georgia was really high that day. Maybe Sebastian has some sort of internal issue that was happening, stress. We don't know what the issue was. So I was given 3 inhalers to take twice a day at 15, 16 years old, even though when they did the test to measure the impact of the breathalyzer, my lung capacity was that of a marathon runner. So they said, this is really weird for a person to have that lung capacity, because I was a long-distance runner. I was in the Marines, and this is before that time, but I was clearly a very healthy person. And I had a lot of wind, but it was odd that they would diagnose me with asthma. And because of this very fact, we realized that health is something that has been a problem. It's not a new problem. And the medical field has not been delivering on a lot of the needs that people have. And I'm sure you all have a story in your own life of going to the doctor, feeling down, feeling bad, feeling like you have symptoms, only to be told, go home, you're just fine. But you know you're not fine. I'll get into another personal story as I go forward. And so with the New Life Challenge, immediately when I adopted a plant-based diet almost 17 years ago, those inhalers disappeared. Didn't need them. I was also in the Marine Corps. I was running 5K in 19 minutes, and that was after doing 100 push-ups, after doing about 20 pull-ups, and also after doing 100 sit-ups as well.
Hoorah.
That's right, hoorah. So in the Marine Corps, it was very odd, right, that, you know, while I was there, I was always told when it was time to perform that I needed to cut certain things out of my diet. Make sure you go to bed early the night before a physical fitness test. And why was my sergeant telling us these kind of things? I didn't really know. But we just knew that it worked. When I followed it, my physical fitness score was even higher, 298 PFT score out of 300. And I'm like, well, there must be something to this. But the next day I was back to the regular old habits. And so because of this, the New Life Challenge is based upon these particular principles that many of us are aware of, but just have not heard in this particular way. So I call it the Fountain of Youth on your phone. Now, just to, let's see if I can get this, there we go. So the New Life Challenge exists to stimulate self-governed human wholeness through the liberating power of disruptive knowledge. Let me break down this, because this is really the ideal. This is the world that we want to create. We believe that every person can be the CEO of his or her own health. You don't need a person in a white coat to manage your body. That's not how your body was designed. Because a person went to school for 4 more years than you doesn't mean they know how to run your body better than you. And because of this, this is what currently society is is purporting to people, and we exist to stimulate the fact that you can self-govern your own wholeness, and you can maintain that. And not only this, we believe that wholeness needs to be comprehensive, the whole person. You are not just a physical being, you're not just organs. And because you're not just an organ, and I'm not just a group of organs or certain biological systems that are just interacting, you also have a mind. Stress is the #1 driver for why people end up in the doctor's office, in fact. People don't know that. They think, oh, it's because I didn't, I ate that extra piece of chocolate cake last night. I shouldn't have had that. Or, that pecan pie was just so good. I just couldn't help myself. That's why I'm feeling so bad. But in fact, a lot of these habits are driven by stress, which we are not also taught to manage by our physicians. Lastly, there's a certain liberating power to what we call disruptive knowledge. Disruptive knowledge is when someone tells you something you had no clue about before they told you. So, for example, a lot of people, because I used to travel a lot, I used to be a professional speaker, and with the particular plant-based diet I had, people used to wonder, before silk and being vegan was actually popular, how do you survive when you're flying to Germany and Europe where they love cheese, cream, milk, and everything? And so one of the things I told them, I said, if you want to make healthy decisions on the fly, it's very, very important to recognize one simple principle. The first thing you need from your food is what? That's incorrect. I'm about to give you some disruptive knowledge. The #1 thing you need from your food is water. Did you know that?
Yes, we had one who do that.
There we go.
Well, I was in the Marine Corps also.
There you go. Hoorah. So now, the first thing we need from our food is water, not nutrients. Nutrients exist because it has water inside. So now when you go to the store, you're like, oh, French fries. Well, obviously, if it's fried in oil, there ain't no water in those French fries. So you automatically know that's not the healthiest option. And because of this, we can take this one principle just to make healthier choices. And we believe this kind of information is disruptive to people. They thought, oh, I got to count my calories. I got to figure out, oh, I can't eat too many bananas. And you got girls trying to figure out how to get kale in their smoothie in the mornings. All because they think, oh, I just need to maximize all these nutrients. But guess what? All the foods that are nutrient-rich foods are also water-rich foods. That's why when people say, let's go on a diet, what do they eat? Watermelon, cucumbers, which are what? 99% water. How interesting that you become healthier by eating these kind of foods. So for us, this is what our overall brand is about. This is what we want to build. We're literally trying to impact society and change the whole concept of how people deal with lifestyle and chronic illnesses. Now, who are we? What I describe it as, we're kind of like the green movement of the health and wellness industry, right? When you think about the green movement, you think about people who are saying there's a better way to do this in order to create sustainability, right? We don't have to be burning all these, fossil fuels and all this stuff, which is really creating more problems for our environment, and at the same token is disrupting our world from being able to last. We'd like to have our grandkids here, right? To be able to enjoy the world, not be out there saying $9.95 if you want to buy some clean oxygen. That's not the kind of world that we want. Also, we help users not only lose weight and reverse lifestyle disease, but keep it off and prevent health recidivism. You see, a lot of solutions out there currently to chronic illness, they're like temporary solutions. Get on P90X, do this thing for like 2 months, kill yourself, and then you gain the weight back in a year. Because guess what? Nobody's going to do insanity every single day of their life for the next 40 years. And you couldn't, right? I was just watching a documentary the other day about Rich Froning, right? The fittest man in the world, and CrossFit. And you're like, listen, nobody's going to do that. Even he's like, the mental toll upon himself. He's like, I don't think I'm going to do this again. He has a family. You can't be working out in a barn every single day when you got 3 kids and you got to feed people. And guess what? You also have a wife you got to spend time with, which is all a part of your wholeness as a person. You need relationships. You need to be able to just kick back and relax and be like, look, there's no competition to press towards. And people are going for your head everywhere you go. As soon as they see Rich Froning, I got to beat him. That's a lot of pressure to put on an individual. And that mentally takes its toll upon you. And so it's very important that we develop a lifestyle for people that any person can follow, and it is something they can continue into their 60s, 70s, and 80s. Now, let me move a little bit faster as I go forward. So let's define the problem a little more clearly. There are 422 million diabetics in the world. Think about that. 422 million diabetics. You also have the fact, there are 2.1 billion obese people. 1/3 of the planet is actually overweight out of 7 billion. Now, with this particular number of people, you're talking that's total available market of people who could use the things that we're talking about in this particular application. And that's not even talking about the other big 5 diseases, such as heart disease, et cetera, et cetera. Let me continue to go forward. Did you know that in 33 years, since this year, no country has been able to figure out how to reduce obesity in its country? Not one in the entire planet. Obesity has been growing for 33 years. So you're talking since the 1970s and 80s, this has been a constant growing problem and no country has any solution for it. And the last thing I want to mention is the fact that 31% of the people that die in the world, and a person dies every 6 seconds on this planet, 1 in 3 of those people die from heart disease all over the world. So we're beyond the issue of saying, oh, we have a health problem or this is just, lifestyle challenges. No. We're talking about pandemic level. If I told you that 1 in 3 people died from AIDS, would that be a problem in the world? You would be like, look, we need to figure out something. You would be mobilizing all the research and money you could find to stop this hemorrhaging that's happening on the planet. Now, to go forward, to complicate the issue, right, all the medical options are very expensive, right? You got people going to the doctor, triple heart bypass, coronary, removing the artery and adding another artery, heart transplants. I mean, this stuff is extremely expensive. So people are like, well, you can keep living, barely, and we're going to slap you with the medical bill on top of that. So now you're like, well, I'm glad that my dad is still alive. I'm glad that grandpa can still be there, but barely there, only with the bills that we're trying to pay for him, with no long-term solution in sight. This is the only option. Number 2, medication is not something people want to take. Nobody wants to wake up with a little plastic case, taking pills every day, popping these things all the time for the rest of their life. Am I telling the truth?
Yes.
No one wants to do that. Number 3, making lifestyle changes is difficult. You get on there and they're like, oh, well, you go to the doctor, you got to stop eating meat, you got to stop doing this, you can't be doing this, you got to follow this regime. Hey, download these documents as your outtake form as you're leaving the doctor's office, only to find what? You're like, man, I don't even know where to begin. Not only do we not know where to begin, it's very difficult to develop healthy lifestyle habits when you've been used to doing other things. It's something that a lot of people take for granted. And most of the programs out there, they're incomplete. They only focus on either diet or exercise. Okay, yeah, let's help you track your calories. Let's help you see what you're eating today. Make sure you get your 7-minute workout or sweat with Caleb. All these particular things are out there simply to say, hey, do exercise, track your food, and then you're going to do this. And that only benefits 2 specific lifestyle diseases, diabetes type 2 and people who have high blood pressure. Tracking helps those people the most. Now, there's nothing to say there about obesity, nothing to say there about high cholesterol, nothing to say there about heart disease. Now, I want to tell you a story about 3 friends in a river. So 3 friends come to this beautiful river. It's leading to a waterfall. And as they're deciding to jump in and swim, they realize that they hear a young child screaming, heading towards the edge of the waterfall. Now, as they go to jump in to save this kid, they realize that there's actually other kids in the river. So then they start trying to swim to save all these kids. Now, by the time they get done with saving the kids that they saw, they realize there's more kids coming down the river. So then they jump back in, try to double their efforts, and keep saving more of these kids. So then they go and get those kids, and then realize that they're actually coming faster, and more of them are increasing. And they're not able to save everybody. Some kids went over the waterfall. So at this point in time, one of the individuals that's swimming with them, after they see and realize that this is not going to happen, they start swimming upstream. And the other two are like, where are you going? We got so many children here to save. Why are you leaving? We need all the help that we can get. We don't have time for you to be swimming upstream, whatever's going on in your mind. And she turns around and she says, I'm going to upstream to find out what is throwing all these kids in the water and how to stop it. I'm going to deal with the upstream problem. Clearly, something or someone is throwing kids in the water. And this is exactly what the New Life Challenge is about. We cannot just continue to treat symptoms of a problem. We need to figure out what is the essential problem. We need to be upstreamists in our thinking. And that is the goal of what we're trying to build with the business. Now, just so you can be clear on what the opportunity that exists, Jennifer Elliott, she basically specializes in wearable technology. She wrote an article on Forbes and she said, with healthcare reform and more advanced data becoming available, mobile health apps will not only see a growing number of users, but studies suggest they will, for the first time, become people's preferred resource over physicians. That was written in February 2016. Right now, this is becoming a literal reality. People would actually rather trust their phone than their doctor. I'm perfectly fine being managed with my phone. In fact, the #1 growing number of users in this category are mothers 25 to 50. They're like, look, if this thing can tell me where's the baby, this thing can do my blood pressure, this thing can do my heart rate, I don't want to have to come to the doctor and sit there forever and ever and ever. Anyone who's ever been here, have you ever been to the doctor and it was like the smoothest, fastest experience in your life?
Once.
Once, right? One time out of, it was okay?
It was in the UK.
Oh, it was in the UK?
In the UK.
Right. UK has universal health care, right?
Yes.
So now, all of us have been in the waiting room, is what I call it. You're sitting there, they told you to be there at 9, right? The doctor doesn't see you till 10, then only came in for 10 minutes, and then you're waiting another 30 minutes after the doctor left because the nurse has to process you out, get your paperwork, now you're waiting for this, and you're thinking to yourself, all of this only for him to tell me for 10 minutes, oh, you're okay, everything's fine, hey, take 2 of these, stop by, what's your pharmacy, CVS? Okay, no problem, go pick those up.
Can't do anything, it's a virus.
And it's on your way. And why is this? Because his practice and her practice and their whole medical situation is not designed for healing. It's designed for medicating you and keeping you coming back. We don't have time. This doctor is seeing hundreds and sometimes thousands of patients. Because of this, I don't have time to sit and figure out, hey, you know, this is really your lifestyle issue. We need to personalize this, but this is your lifestyle issue, and this is how we personalize this. And this is why right now, because of mobile technology and all the data available, people are like, we're ready to do this. Unbeknownst to most people, health and wellness apps are growing 87% faster than any other app category. That includes social media. That includes lifestyle. That includes entertainment, like Netflix and all those things. Because those people are in place. You're not going to beat Netflix in the App Store. They're like, they literally have the highest grossing app currently from last year. Super Mario Brothers Run just came out. Same thing. Apple promoted this thing. It made $25 million in 4 days as an app. But in terms of the number of apps that are coming out, this is the fastest growing. In fact, up until 2020, 48% compound annual growth rate. That means if we had 100 this year, you say, well, 48% of that, you're going to have 148. Then you're going to take another 48% the next year and another 48% the following year. Every single year, this is how fast it's growing. Just in 2 years, the health and wellness app industry went from $9 billion in revenue to $28 billion in revenue in 1 year. And that was a year and a half ago. There's clearly interest in this particular thing. And did you know that people that download health and wellness apps, they actually use them twice as much as any other app that you download, including Facebook? People don't know these things, but there's clearly an opportunity there. Consumer, they did a magazine survey, and what they found was that in the next 12 months, this is the percentage of people that plan to get some sort of health technology. 30% plan to buy a fitness app. That's their plan, 30% of them. So 1 in 3 people you know walking around with a smartphone, their plan is to get a fitness app. Or they're gonna buy an Apple Watch, 35%. They're going to get some sort of smart apparel, sleep trackers, or a wearable device. Now, what's our solution? Now, National Geographic and Dan Buettner, they essentially went all over the world and did a research study on what they call blue zones, right? They named it that. And they said, these are the longest living people in the world. And we want to know what makes them the longest living people in the world. What's so special about them? So as they found these different areas, they realized that there's only one blue zone in North America, and it's in Loma Linda, California. So in Loma Linda, California, you have people, the longest living Americans, are part of the longest living people in the world. And it doesn't matter your race, it doesn't matter your gender, it doesn't matter if you're like Puerto Rican, it doesn't matter if you're African, even your type of diet. These individuals all live longer, at least 7 to 10 years minimum, than their American counterparts. And we're not talking about like, you know, an extra few years, but you're still dying. No, these people are renewing their licenses at 100 years old. So Janice, right, in this particular, in Loma Linda, when National Geographic published the study, she was renewing her license at 101. She was still active in her local gym, doing workouts every day. She was active in her local church, teaching. She was not a participant and spectator. She was active, engaging in them. And number 4, she was still very lucid and could remember things all the way back from the 1900s that she's telling her grandkids and her great-grandkids. No one has to drive her anywhere. No one has to go pick her up and make sure she's okay. Did she fall and break her hip? This woman is extremely active. And they're like, this is just unheard of. You don't know people like that. Renewing your license at 100 and it's like still driving. So what Dan Buettner did was he codified it into a certain number of lifestyle habits called the Power 9. Now, that gives you the habits, but building these habits, if you didn't grow up in that culture of Loma Linda, right, how do you do that? So what we also looked at is the fact that the Fogg behavioral model validated our assumptions was that, look, you can't just drop people in and say, hey, you got diabetes, all right, let's get on insanity. That's too difficult for them, right? So what we looked at is Dr. B.J. Fogg, he's a professor at Stanford, he specializes in change behavior. And he creates what's called the behavioral model, which says, first of all, behavior equals motivation plus ability plus a trigger all happening at the same time. That's how you get any behavior. So now, if you were to graph it, right, if motivation can be high or motivation can be low, in ability, a task can be hard to do and a task can be easy to do. You get this particular graph, which is called the action line. And then triggers succeed here, triggers fail here. So if you try to trigger somebody to do something that's very hard to do and their motivation is very low, you will not get the behavior. So if you want a behavior, you have to have all three. There must be a trigger, there must be a clear motivation, and they have to have the ability. So what Dr. Fogg basically encourages health companies, because he does consulting for health companies, he says, listen, why are you starting here? P90X, hey, yeah, super difficult to do, and people's motivation isn't like, yeah, I'm ready to go out the roof. Let's go do this, right? I'm going to go do P90X because their body is just too difficult to do. That's why there's space here. It never eventually touches. There's just some things that it doesn't matter how motivated you are, you will never be able to do. Run a marathon. It's like, I don't care how motivated you are. Some people just will not run a marathon. It just will not happen. And there's certain things that your motivation can be so low, it doesn't matter how easy the task is. So the type of people that we're targeting in our particular solution are individuals who exist over here. They have very high ability, but their motivation isn't necessarily the highest, or they have very high motivation and very high ability, they just need the trigger. So if you've ever been driving down the highway, and as you're driving down the highway, it's not that you don't want to stop to get gas. You're motivated to make sure your car has gas. You don't want to be broke down on the side of the road. You also got a credit card, so you have the ability to get gas. But if you don't see your gas light come on, you will not stop to get gas because it was not triggered. So because the trigger was missing, you didn't stop to get gas. And there's a lot of people in the world that would live a healthier life, not because they're not motivated, not because they don't have the ability, they just need the trigger. They need something to prompt them, to cue them to say, hey, it's time to drink a glass of water right now. Hey, why don't you just go walk outside for 5 minutes, get some fresh air, some fresh sunlight, etc., etc. Now, what we did was we combined these two concepts of blue zone habits with Dr. Fogg's behavioral model into what we call a mobile health and wellness application that first of all combines the longevity principles of those blue zones. They follow certain habits of living, and those habits are super simple and accessible to any particular person. Secondly, we use Dr. Fogg's model of gradual building towards people. So rather than telling people, hey, go out and do like the 100 push-up challenge for 100 days, we say, look, just walk outside for 5 minutes. Tiny habits, baby steps, and in 10 weeks, we've seen people lose 40 pounds. We've seen people actually reduce their cholesterol, their blood pressure, and some people have even reversed diabetes off of insulin altogether. Now, my mother-in-law is a classic example. She's 60 years old. She has type 2 diabetes. Up until recently, she was managing it just fine without insulin. But it got to the point where she couldn't manage it. Because the challenges were, oh, you go to a Christmas dinner. You go to Thanksgiving. She's grandma. You know, she wants to cook, right? And not only does she want to cook, she wants to eat. So it's good food. So you step into these situations that take you all over the place in terms of your diabetes, which affects your energy, which affects your lucidity, all these particular elements. So for us, this kind of program immediately takes someone like my mother-in-law and says, look, Ma, you don't have to just go and try to do these hardcore exercises and walk 10 miles because you felt bad because you had that lemon meringue cake or pie. It's like, just walk 5 minutes. We're not saying don't eat anything that's sweet. Just here, have a little bit here, have some fruit, which she does love fruit, and we're rewarding people and affirming them in actions that they're like, I can do this. They don't feel like this is a challenge, this will take forever, I'm never going to be successful. We're like, look, you can walk 5 minutes a day. Am I telling you the truth? Any of you can eat 1 serving of fruit a day. That's a cup of cantaloupe. Just slices of cantaloupe. Could you do that? Absolutely. Could you read for 5 minutes before you went to sleep? You could. Not knowing that all these simple things that you're doing are gradually moving you from where you are to where you want to be in terms of health, and you're building tiny habits that are going to be so easy for you to last and create sustainable health. And last but not least, we make it social because people need community. Community motivates us to be healthy. That's why people like gyms. That's why they like to work out together, walk together. You know, if you go down Hay Street, anytime between 4 and 8 a.m., you're going to see people running together, walking together, biking. They're all out there because social helps encourage healthy lives. Now, our market sizes, just in the last quarter of 2016, there were actually 19 billion downloads in the App Store. 19 billion downloads. Now, 2.9 billion of that was actually health and wellness related. So that, to me, that's our pretty much total available market. Now, serviceable, that only comes to about 90 million because you got to think about language barriers and accessibility to the kinds of things that we're trying to ask people to do. You know, you can't go to Ethiopia and say, hey, take a walk. It's a very dangerous neighborhood, you know, so we assume that certain markets are not going to be as relevant and useful. So let's talk about the product a little bit. So what we did was, just to give you some of the screens, I don't have a way to basically connect you so I could show you from my phone on the beta version, but essentially you download the app, you get this screen where you're essentially looking at, hey, create your free personalized 10-week wellness program. You begin your assessment. After you do that, you're introduced to the 10 habits of the longest living people in the acronym of the New Life. That's what the New Life stands for. So you have trust more, stress less, have refreshing rest, enjoy sunlight, nutrition, exercise, drink water, live temperately, invest time in other people, get fresh air, and make sure you take time to educate yourself. And then after you do that, you get this sort of screen that tells you, okay, here's your health score. These are your strong points, and by improving in these areas and these habits of lifestyle, you can add 7+ years to your life. And we're not talking about 7 years in general. We're talking about healthy years to your life. You're putting off several kinds of diseases into the future. This is a more zoomed in version of this screen. So it'll tell you, here's your wholeness score, gives you that summary, and then it gets you started. Now, as you go through the program, you're going to get today's challenge, let's say on water, is this particular habit. It'll say drink 60 ounces of water is your challenge today. You can do that in glasses, bottles, a sports bottle. You can also change it to ounces if you like. This is a maxed out one, so it'll end you at 30 minutes of exercise a day maximum. That's all you really need, is 20 to 30 minutes a day. And that way you can say, oh, my challenge today, it'll tell you is 5 minutes. It's 7 minutes of exercise today. And it gradually works you up. So for 10 days, it'll say, hey, just take a walk for 5 minutes. You do that for 10 days, you're building a tiny habit. And what happens is you're like, okay, this is so easy. And as Dr. Fogg says, every time they accomplish an easy task, not only are they surprised and they feel successful, you're actually preparing them for more difficult tasks at the same time. Another habit is the nutrition. So they'll tell you, I don't care what else you eat around these things. That's one unique thing about our program. We're not telling you, okay, immediately cut off all your meat, all your chicken, don't eat your bacon, all this kind of stuff. What we tell people is, look, just add, let's say, this is really an extreme. This is the full maxed out nutrition challenge. 3 servings of fruit, 5 nuts, 3 servings of vegetables, and 4 servings of grain. People say, well, what is a serving? Well, we have a little eye bubble that you'll click on the screen, boom, it'll pop up and it'll say, here's a serving of fruit. Here's a serving of vegetable. This is a serving of nuts. So people know what they're looking for and how to do it. That's why we say disruptive knowledge is very important. You've got to educate people at the same time. Now, eventually you'll have what's called your dashboard. So this will be, these are your habits, and when are you going to do those particular things? So it's adapted to your schedule, and it gives you reminders. So you may say, hey, you know what? I'm going to take a nap at 3 o'clock. I'm going to get some sun at 1:30. Just walk outside, get 5 minutes of sun. That's my challenge. And the app will say, hey, it's sunny outside. Why don't you step out and get some of that beautiful sun? Then it'll tell you educate, invest time in others. Hey, why don't you call your mom? Just see how she's doing. Those little habits encourage health. And people don't know that. Eventually you'll have a community screen where all the particular individuals in the timeline in the app, you can follow them. So you can say, oh, I'm going to follow Sebastian's New Life Challenge. And Sebastian may post and say, oh, he ran 2 miles in 3.4 hours. Such and such, she's drinking water. And you can post pictures and comments. People can like it and follow you. And that way you can be encouraged about what people are doing. And then you have your personal profile. So you have your photos, how many weeks are you in, you have the social media integration, and if you want to follow more people, you have the search function, so you can add them by country, you can add them by their username, and you can also add them based upon their actual name, what it is. So our business model is very simple. Essentially, you have it's $50 a year, or $4.99 a month, in order to use the application. We went with that model because we didn't want to be too low, because you recognize that for a lot of apps that are free, it gets annoying when you have all the ads coming up all the time. So it's like every time you do an action, it's like, oh yeah, you get like Clash of Clans or like some new horror movie coming out, and people are like, I don't want to see this. This is so annoying. So we didn't want to get into that space. We want to be able to offer people to focus on their health. That's all they want to use the app to do. They don't want to be advertised to for general users. Secondly, we also have one-to-one coaching where we call it a 10-week program that's more live. We'll do like a live seminar. We'll meet once a week with people. They can do group coaching, and they can say, hey, I have high cholesterol, I have hypertension, whatever it is, and we literally specialize the program to that. And we also have custom pricing for corporate wellness. So we have about 4 or 5 letters of intent in terms of corporate wellness all over different companies and different groups of people. We customize this rate to include statistics and data, group challenges within your company to make people motivated and encourage them to what they're doing. Now, competition-wise, I just put this up here just so you could see. Based on February 6, 2017, I wanted to wait until as close as possible to tell you. These are the highest grossing apps, health and wellness apps in the App Store right now. Fitbit is walking, exercise, activity. They also have water, calorie counter, and diet. So you're going to see exactly what I told you. It's all very incomplete. It's like either it tracks diet, or it tracks exercise, or it tracks both, but it's not giving you a comprehensive set of health principles that are sustainable. Meditation apps, these are the ones you have to pay to download, and these are the highest grossing in money, which is Sweat with Kayla is #1. Getting that bikini bod, all this kind of stuff, which is what Dr. Fogg counsels against. Changing behavior, your focus needs to not be on motivation. It needs to be on making it easy for people and making it simple and have proper triggers for them. But most of the apps you see, they're not about making it easy for the user. They're all about marketing, and again, it's just taking what's happening in the medical world and bringing it to the app world. Now, these are more focused competitors. Argus has a program that tracks about 4 out of the 10 of our habits. recently came out because science is starting to catch up with these things. The government has been studying that blue zone for 60 years now. Lifesum is a diet and tracking app. So these ones are more activity trackers. This one tracks meal planning, gives you light exercise recommendations. iFit integrates all your devices, gets you active, et cetera, et cetera. Rally gives you a more corporate wellness feel called Rally Engage, where you can track your activities, you can have goals, develop habits. So they're very similar to us in the habit realm on the top. These are very similar to us in terms of the tracking piece and some of the habits that we're recommending. But again, our clear differentiation between them is ours is much more comprehensive. It's not just diet, exercise, drink some water. It's the full package of the longest living people in the world. For us, we're not just trying to tell you, be healthy for now. We want you to have sustainable wellness going forward. Also, our behavioral change model is scientifically validated, right? This is not just guesswork. We're not just saying, hey, let's try this and see how it works. You can really damage people and demotivate them by recommending something to them and then they fail. And that's one of the big things that Dr. Fall counsels against. Also, we're going to be implementing digital coaching into our application so that physicians can get on the app and they can use this app to help encourage the lifestyle of their patients. And they can track and see, hey, how are you doing with water? How are you doing with exercise? And this is really going to allow physicians to really make it easy for them to engage their patients, because the number one influencer on most people's health decisions is their primary care physician. If their doctor tells them, you're going to die if you don't stop eating beef, people stop eating beef. Or they just resolve themselves that they're going to die because the task is so hard, no matter how motivated you are, or they're not motivated. So to me, this behavioral model helps doctors to say, we're building a program to do for your patients what you don't have the time to do for them. But you can still get the benefit of knowing what's happening in their lives. And of course, our brand values. We're not just about making money. Our desire is to get people self-sustaining. You can manage your own health. You can be the CEO of your own health. Now, what we're looking for in terms of offering, right now, we're looking for a $300,000 angel round. We already have 375 raised to produce our MVP. I still have capital from that as we go and launch our marketing aggression in March 1st. The app will be in the App Store probably within the week. I just submitted the final screenshots and everything for the App Store in the description. Secondly, we're also, if you guys know of any corporate wellness leads, anywhere from 25 to 1,000 employees. We have DVDs that we're creating for them if they don't want anybody to come in. We have coaches who can come in, teach them the principles, give them these kind of presentations, teach them the stuff I'm telling you, give them the disruptive knowledge and show them you can manage this on your own, and we can save a corporation a lot of money in healthcare costs. Because if your people are healthier, you're saving money. They're not going to the doctor all the time. You're not paying for all these expenses that a lot of corporations are facing. And we're looking at pretty much generating about $2.5 million in revenue over the next 12 months, and that will accommodate for the 50,000 users that we're seeking to target, which is our goal. Now, let me just say one last piece before I end and take questions, is this particular round is specifically focused on our next iteration of the application. We really want to beef it up because we have meal tracking, we're going to have exercise plans, the digital coaches, so you can sign up for your own digital coach. They basically tell you, hey, look, this is a personalized exercise plan for you. This is a personalized meal plan for you. And you're not going to have to type in and say how many calories or how do I know I got my 3 servings of fruit. That's going to be very easy for you to do. You can just type, I had oatmeal, and we'll have meals already prepared for you to reach those dietary goals. So you just say, do you want oatmeal or do you want to eat some granola with some fruit? And that satisfies your whole grain and your fruit requirement as well. And your nuts, because if you drink it with almond milk, you're also getting the benefit of that. So for us, we're trying to give creative ways to help people to make it as easy as possible for them to be healthy. Any questions? Yes.
Just as a doctor would do a physical exam to decide how to manage that patient,
Yep.
how do you screen the consumers that are purchasing this? Do they enter their medical information to you?
No,
Do
so
you do their personal profile?
So what we do in the basic MVP app, it just does the basic assessment to the lifestyle habits of the Blue Zone in Loma Linda. When we do the next iteration, that's where we're going to be adding in a more comprehensive health profile. Because until we get, right now we have our general counsel working on all of that legally. Because right now we don't want people to think that this is medical care, right? We're not doctors, we're not physicians. And we have to be very clear about that in our terms of use in the app. But once we go to the digital coaching model and we bring in physicians, then we can actually build in a more comprehensive health profile. But people will be able to integrate with whatever the system the hospital has. That's the goal. Absolutely. Yes.
I think she was first.
Sure, go ahead.
So when you say this was scientifically validated, who was it scientifically validated by and
The behavioral model?
what measures?
Yeah. So Dr. B.J. Fogg, he's the professor at Stanford. He has a class that he teaches called Persuasive Technology there at Stanford. And basically he's helped companies, consults for all kinds of hospitals and health and M-Fitness and M-Health programs and devices about how to basically help people do this. So this is something that is already happening. It's already being proven as a tested method.
Okay.
But I couldn't tell you specifically what all the metrics and what his variables were and what kind of population he used in his analysis. But I can definitely work on getting that.
So when you say doctor, do you mean PhD doctor or
He's a
an
PhD,
MD?
but I know he's worked with actual scientists that are actually in the medical field, for sure. But he's a psychiatrist or psychologist by trade. So yeah, he's done several experiments in that space, but in the medical side, it's on the other side.
So when I sign up for this 10-week program, I fill out my initial
Assessment. Yep.
So in the 11 weeks, do I want to continue? Do I just start the process over, or do I have to fill out a new assessment to get me a new program?
Nope, you just continue building and we'll continue giving challenges.
Okay.
So let's say we'll be able, as the admins of the app, we can see that, hey, he's maxed out. He's doing 3 servings of fruit, 5 servings of nuts. He's exercising every day. But we noticed that your weakest habit, let's say, was getting fresh air, right? So we start giving you more challenges on the issue of fresh air. And we'll have campaigns towards that and a lot more education to drive towards that. But you can continue using the app. And the benefit of us people signing up before we do our June 1st launch of our second iteration is that they're grandfathered in to the application. So if you pay the $50 or the $4.99 a month and you're already a subscriber, that means when we beef it up and add meal planning and digital coaching, you don't have to pay the premium pricing for that. And Apple just created that possibility for us.
So at week 11, it will just continue to roll over, and you guys will.
Yep, you continue to track because you paid for it for the year. It's yours. And in 12 months, we're going to have Android version. You're going to have all kinds of other abilities. We'll have a health channel inside the app where you'll get constant information. We'll say, hey, here's a new challenge right now. Anybody gets a perfect fresh air score, 30% off the Nike store. That kind of stuff. So we want to constantly keep people engaged, for sure.
Forgive me, I had to step out. Right now, it's just Apple.
Yep, it's just
Not
iOS.
Android.
It's not Android yet. I know. Yeah, it's an MVP. So weird. But yes, our Android version will be ready in June. And we wanted to do that because if we release the Android in this MVP model, I think we wanted to first test it to see what we could learn from the initial users to basically maximize it for our ubiquitous. Because if you go to Android, out of those 19 billion downloads, 80% of that is Android. So before you get to that Android market, to me, we really want to prove and test it and have a strong proof of concept.
I respect that.
Thank you, Lori. Yes, sir.
How many states are you now in?
Right now, we just have an office here. We have an office in Atlanta. My VP of marketing, she's in Cleveland, in Ohio, but we haven't established an office out there yet, which the offices are really mainly for corporate wellness clients.
Are you a publicly traded company?
No. We're just in launching our MVP startup. But we are a Delaware C corporation. Everybody's equity is vested. So the goal is to be in the long term, and eventually we do plan to go that route down the line as one of our exit strategies. Yes, ma'am.
You're tracking a lot of the positive habits. Can you speak a little bit about, like, what if, I mean, as a human being, I'm going to grab that candy bar once in a while. How are you tracking?
Oh, yes. So I didn't mention this. That's a very good question. So,
When you grab it, your phone's gonna put a shock out.
that is a novel idea. I'll have to talk to the developers. Just start the flashing on your phone. Yeah, so I didn't address this in the screens because I didn't want it to extend it so long because there's so many screens. But the live temperately habit is actually what manages all of those, because temperance is all about using wisely the things that are good for you and doing away with the things that are completely harmful. So that talks about snacking, soda, smoking, coffee, alcohol, all those things, which are all clear indicators that lead towards diabetes and heart disease and all those other things.
But does it track it, or does it
Well,
just talk about it?
Yeah, it does. You have to input every single day. It'll say, hey, reduce your snacks today by 2 snacks only. So yeah, it does engage you on that specifically. But in terms of tracking, with a lot of these habits, like we said, in the behavioral model, if we want you to stop eating snacks, we have to remove either your motivation, your ability, or your trigger. And that's what we need to find out. So that's where we're doing a lot more exploration of how can we engage in a negative habit, where we want you to stop a behavior. So we got to either remove the trigger, or we have to remove your ability, or we have to remove the motivation. So we believe that right now what we're exploring is, through the disruptive knowledge, we can potentially impact people on the motivation side. That's what made me give up hot dogs. When I saw how they made hot dogs and what they put in them, I was like, oh, this is over for me. I'm done. I was 16 years old. I was like, I don't want to eat any more hot dogs. But yeah, so for a lot of people, we're exploring what can we do to decrease those behaviors, for sure, on the negative habits. Yes, ma'am, sorry.
With the folks who live in Loma Linda,
Uh-huh.
did the analysis reveal what set them apart?
These were the habits.
Surprises?
It was the habits that set them
Okay.
apart, because they're all diverse. Some of them were Filipino. The woman I mentioned, Janice, she's older Caucasian lady. You had an African woman. I mean, it's all diverse, and the government's been studying them for 60 years. So it's the diversity of this lifestyle is other places. It's just not as concentrated as Loma Linda. And so these other places, it still works. They did a study in Norway, they did a study in Switzerland, Germany, and a study in Korea, I believe, and they found all the same results. They live longer than their counterparts every time. Doesn't matter about gender or anything like that. If they practice that lifestyle, the closer they practice it, the longer they live to their counterparts and healthier. Yes.
To your last question.
Yes.
Next, so how often you have your 50 users you're trying to reach within, within that 12 months? So that's about 41K members a month. What's your marketing strategy to reach that many people with just app users?
Yes. So our marketing strategy, I didn't put this in the presentation because there's some things that I think we're still defining branding wise that we want to figure out if we want to use this to target simply that 40 to 50-year-old, which primary users are women, older women who are working, middle class. And then we have another brand we're exploring for millennials, who are the greatest adopters. But right now, our goal is to, number one, we've been doing actual products. So the content in the app is in this book. We call it The Healthy Self, right? So we used to do this in live seminars. We developed a cookbook at the same time to go with it. And a lot of those people, that's been going on for 4 years. So a lot of those people have been anticipating the actual release of the application. So we're planning on tapping into those numbers. We also have spoken to the people in Loma Linda to see if they'd be interested in using it. There's a big hospital out there. And so that's another group that we're exploring in terms of relationship and partnership. And through corporate wellness right now, we're also planning to get a lot of users that way as well. But our planned strategy is really content marketing, affiliate marketing, where we get people who are very high health bloggers. We do a revenue sharing model with them. We post the ads on their blog. Certain conversions, they get a certain piece of that. And we're planning to leverage our blog to use that disruptive knowledge, put it out there and let people know, hey, did you know this? The first thing you need from your food is water. This is, very important that beets can actually affect diabetes and your blood sugar levels to keep it more controlled.
Have you approached any hospitals on this?
Not yet, because I felt like it was premature. Personally, I just didn't know if we had enough pieces that would attract them. But if you definitely have some insight on that, I'm open. For sure.
What, I'm on the challenge for a year, or loved ones on the challenge for a year.
Yep.
They drop dead of a heart attack.
Uh-huh.
I come back to you and say, you gave them poor nutritional information.
Uh-huh.
Who is providing you your nutritional information to back up the claims of the program?
Well, whenever you do an app, to deal with the legal piece of that, whenever you deal with an app, there's the terms of use, and that's legally built in when you sign up with the app to use it, that this is not medical advice, this is not medical, we're not doctors, we're not, PhDs in nutrition. But to answer your question practically, this is all drawn from that particular study of the blue zone. So in terms of anything we're talking about in terms of servings of fruits or servings of vegetables, with the digital coaching, we intend to have that to personalize it based on your health profile. So if you're diabetic, your way of getting whole grains has to be different than mine. Because you can eat certain things that are whole grain, but they're going to raise your blood sugar a lot. And that's why we thought digital coaching is really the piece that takes us on the edge to make it even more personalized and to protect against what you're talking about. So for initial users, it's going to be very simple and baseline. You won't have any medical problems with any doctor would tell you that what we're recommending people nutritionally, they have no problem with. Right now, we have physicians on our board, our advisory, and we have a potential clinical study with Northern Arizona University to start hopefully next month. If all that goes well, where they're going to test it with their hospital employees and their students on campus. So they're aware of our program, and as scientists and as doctors, they validated that our stuff is very baseline. And basically what I would tell that person is, what we recommend is what any doctor would tell you. Absolutely. Reducing meats, dairy products, and increasing the amount of fruits and vegetables you're eating, nuts and grains. I mean, any doctor would be like, that's a no-brainer. It would actually prevent heart attack.
So reducing all meats?